The dragon had waited 3,000 years to die, and tonight the stars finally agreed to let him. His name was Vorathane, and he was not the kind of dragon that lived in old human stories. He had no scales of gold, no hoard of coins, no wings that beat against castle towers. Vorathane was 2 miles long. His body was made of living metal and burning stone, and inside his chest, where a heart should be, there spun a small dying sun. He was the last of the star WYRMS, the ancient machine beasts who had shaped whole galaxies before any small creature learned to walk. Now he drifted alone in the dark, cold and slow, at the edge of a dead system where nothing lived. His inner sun had shrunk to the size of a coal. Every few minutes it flickered, and each flicker sent a shiver of pain down his enormous frame. He had chosen this place to end, far from anyone, far from memory. Soon, he whispered to the empty dark. His voice was deep enough to bend the space around him. Soon I will rest. And then the light hit him. It was small, almost nothing. A tiny ship, no bigger than one of his teeth, came tumbling out of a fold in space, spinning wildly, trailing smoke and sparks. It was ugly and gray and covered in patches, the kind of ship built by hands that had very little and needed it to last. On its side, in faded letters, was written a word Vorathane had never seen before. Sparrow. The little ship was dying too. Its engines coughed. One wing was torn half off. It spun straight toward the dragon's massive body, unable to stop. Vorathane watched it come. In 3,000 years he had learned that everything small eventually broke against something large. He did not move. He only waited to see the tiny ship shatter against his side like a bug against glass. But at the last second, the sparrow fired a burst from a side thruster. It was a desperate, clumsy move. The ship scraped along the dragon's metal hide, throwing sparks a mile long, and finally came to rest in the deep groove between two of his ancient armor plates. It sat there, smoking, tiny and trembling. And then a voice came through the dark. A radio voice, thin and crackling, speaking a language the dragon's mind translated in an instant, the way his ancient makers had built him to do. Okay, the voice said. It was young. A boy's voice. Okay. We're not dead. Dad, we're not dead. There was no answer. Dad, still nothing. Vorathane felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Curiosity. He turned one great eye, an eye the size of a moon crater, toward the little ship stuck against his side. Small creature, he rumbled, and his voice shook the sparrow so hard that inside it, the boy fell out of his seat. You have landed on a grave. Leave, or die here with me. It makes no difference to me which. Inside the ship, the boy went very still. The boy's name was Cade, and he was 12 years old. He pressed his face to the little cracked window and looked out at the thing his ship had crashed into. At first he thought it was a mountain. Then he thought it was a planet. Then his eyes followed the shape of it, up and up and up, past ridges of black metal, past a spine of jagged spires, past two enormous glowing eyes, and his brain finally understood that he was looking at a living thing. That's not a moon, he whispered. That's not a moon. Correct, the dragon said. The word rumbled through the hull. Now go. Cade swallowed hard. His hands were shaking, but he was used to that. His hands had been shaking for 6 days now, ever since the raiders hit the mining station where he and his father worked. Ever since he'd grabbed his dad, who was hurt and bleeding, and dragged him to the only ship left in the docking bay. Ever since they'd jumped blind into the dark to escape, and gotten lost, and run out of almost everything. I can't go, Cade said. My engine's dead. My air's almost gone. My dad's hurt real bad. His voice cracked on the last word. Please. He needs help. There was a long silence. The dragon's giant eyes blinked, slow as an eclipse. I am not a healer, small creature," Vorethane said. "I am a killer of stars. I have burned worlds you cannot imagine. I have ended civilizations that thought themselves gods. And now I am dying. And I have come here so that no one will watch me go. You should not be here." Cade climbed to his feet. He went to the back of the ship, where his father lay strapped into a bunk. His dad's face was gray. His breathing was slow and wet. There was a bandage on his side, and it was dark with blood that had soaked all the way through. Cade knelt beside him. "Dad," he whispered. "Dad, I found something. I found somebody. He's going to help us." His father's eyes fluttered open, just barely. "Cade," he breathed. "Cade, you have to keep going. Whatever happens, you keep going. Promise me. Don't talk like that. Promise me." Cade's throat went tight. He nodded, even though he didn't mean it. "I promise." His father smiled, just a little. Then his eyes closed again, and his breathing slowed even more. Cade stood up. His face was wet, but his jaw was set hard. He went back to the front of the ship, to the radio, and he pressed the button, and he shouted into the dark with everything he had. "Hey, dragon, you said you burned worlds. You said you ended whole planets. Then you're strong, right? You're the strongest thing in the whole galaxy." A pause. Then, amused, "I was. Then a broken engine's nothing to you. Fixing my ship would be like me picking up a rock. You could do it without even trying." Another pause. This one longer. "And why," the dragon said slowly, "would I do this thing for you?" Cade didn't even have to think. "Because I'm asking you to," he said. "Because my dad's dying, and I've got nobody else. Because I climbed out of a ship that's about to run out of air, and I looked at the biggest, scariest thing I've ever seen in my whole life. And instead of hiding, I asked it for help. And maybe that's stupid, but my mom used to say the bravest thing a person can do is ask for help when they've got nothing left." His voice broke. "So I'm asking. Please, please help my dad." The dark was quiet for a long, long time. Then Vorethane, the last of the Star WRMS, the killer of stars, the ancient thing who had come here to die alone, said something he had not said in 3,000 years. "What is your name, small creature?" "Cade." "Cade." The dragon tested the word. It sounded strange in his enormous mouth. "You are the first living thing in a very long time to ask me for anything. Everyone else has only ever begged me to stop." The great eyes turned toward the little ship. "Bring your father to the surface of my body. There is a place, deep between my armor plates, where warmth still lives. I cannot heal him, but I can slow his dying. And perhaps—" The dragon paused, as if surprised at his own words. "Perhaps that will be enough." Getting his father out of the ship was the hardest thing Cade had ever done. He had to put on the old emergency suit, the one that was 2 sizes too big and smelled like dust. He had to wrestle his dad into the other one, moving him inch by inch, terrified the whole time that he was hurting him worse. His dad groaned, but didn't wake. That scared Cade more than anything. When the airlock opened, Cade stepped out onto the surface of a living dragon, and for 1 second, he forgot to be afraid. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. The dragon's body stretched out beneath him like a whole landscape. There were valleys and ridges and mountains, all made of dark metal that glowed faintly from within, like coals under ash. Deep cracks ran through the armor, and inside them, warm orange light pulsed slowly, in and out, like breathing. Far above, the dead stars of the empty system watched in silence. Cade dragged his father across the metal ground toward the nearest warm crack. The gravity here was strange, light and floaty, and that made it easier. When he reached the glowing crevice, he found a smooth ledge just inside it, warm to the touch even through his gloves. He laid his father down there. In the orange light, his dad's face looked a little less gray. "There," Cade whispered. "There. It's warm here. You're going to be okay." He will not die tonight. The dragon's voice rumbled up from all around, felt more than heard. That is all I can promise. His wound is deep. Inside him, something is broken that I do not know how to fix. He needs a healer. Where's the nearest healer? There are none. Not for 1,000 light years. This is the emptiest place in the galaxy. That is why I chose it. Cade sat down beside his father. He was so tired that his bones ached. But his mind was already working, already turning the problem over and over, the way it always did. His dad used to laugh and say Cade's brain never stopped, not even when it should. Then we go find one, Cade said. 1,000 light years. Okay, how fast can you go? The dragon made a sound that Cade slowly realized was a laugh. It was a terrible, grinding, beautiful sound, like continents moving. Small creature, Vorathane said. I told you. I am dying. My inner sun has almost gone out. I have barely enough power left to keep myself warm. I cannot fly 1,000 light years. I can barely turn my own head. Then I'll help. You cannot help. You are the size of one of my teeth. So, Cade stood up. There was a fire in his eyes now, the same fire his mother used to have. You said your inner sun is almost out, right? What is it? Some kind of engine? Some kind of reactor? The dragon was quiet, considering. It is the star I was born from. When my makers built me, they placed a young sun inside my chest. It has burned for 3,000 years. Now it dies, and when it dies, so do I. So it needs fuel. It needs more than you could ever give it. It needs the heart of a star. Cade looked out at the dark, and then he looked at his broken little ship, and then at his sleeping father, and then back at the dying dragon he was standing on. Then let's go find you a star, he said. It took Vorathane a full minute to answer, and when he did, his voice was different. Softer, almost afraid. You do not understand what you are saying. So explain it to me. To feed a dying sun, you must find a living one and take from it. This is not gentle work. This is the work I was built for. This is why worlds feared me. The great eyes dimmed. I was made to hunt stars, Cade. I would fly into a young solar system, and I would drink from its sun until my chest was full, and I would fly away, and the system would go cold and dark forever. Every world in it, every living thing, all of them, dead, so that I could live one more century. Cade's stomach twisted. You killed whole worlds, just to keep going? Yes. The dragon did not hide from it. For 1,000 years I did this without a thought. My makers told me I was the most important thing in the galaxy. They told me the small lives did not matter. They told me I was above them, the way you are above the dust on your boots. A long, heavy pause. And then, one day, I stopped believing them. Why? Because of a sound. The dragon's voice dropped very low. I was draining a star, a small yellow one, and on the third planet there were creatures. Simple ones. They could not fight me. They could not even see me. But as their world went cold, they did something I had never noticed before in all my centuries of killing. He paused. They sang. Cade sat very still. They gathered together, all of them, and as the light died and the cold came, they sang. Not to me. They did not even know I was there. They sang to each other, to their young, to hold each other in the dark. The dragon's giant eyes closed. I did not have a word for what I felt. I have had 3,000 years to find one, and I still do not. But it changed me. I could not do it again. I flew away from that place, and I never fed on a living star again. I found dead stars, cold ones, and drank the last cold dregs of them, and it was never enough. And so, slowly, over 3,000 years, I have been dying. On purpose. As punishment. Cade looked up at the enormous, ancient creature that had come to this empty place to quietly end its own life. You've been trying to die for 3,000 years, he said softly. Because you felt bad. Yes. Because you have a conscience. I do not know that word. It means the thing inside you that knows the difference between right and wrong, and can't shut up about it. Kate almost smiled. My mom had a really loud one. Drove my dad crazy. The dragon was silent. Vorathane, Kate said. There's got to be another way. A star that's already dying, that nobody lives around. A dead system, like this one. You could drink from that and not hurt anybody. Right. Perhaps. The dying suns give little. It would take many. And I would have to find them. And I can barely move. But you can move. A little. A little. Then that's all we need to start. Cade turned toward his ship. My ship's engine is dead, but the computer still works, and it's got star charts. Old ones, but real ones. If we can find you one dead star to drink, just enough to get you moving, we can find the next one. And the next one. Like stepping stones. He looked back at his father, sleeping in the warm orange light. And every step gets us closer to a healer. Right. For a long moment, Vorathane said nothing at all. Then, quietly, the ancient dragon said, In 3,000 years, no small creature has ever tried to save me. They have only ever tried to run from me, or kill me, or beg me for mercy. You are the first to look at me and see something worth saving. A pause. Why? Cade shrugged, the way only a 12-year-old can shrug at an impossible question. Because you're sad, he said simply. And nobody should have to die alone and sad. Not even a dragon. Something moved deep inside Vorathane's chest. The tiny, dying coal of his inner sun flared, just for a second, a little brighter than before. Then bring me your star charts, Cade, the dragon said. Let us take one step into the dark, and then we shall see. The first dead star was 3 days away, and those 3 days changed everything. Cade moved his father into a hollow place deep in the dragon's armor, a kind of warm cave where the metal glowed and the air, thin as it was breathable. Vorathane, it turned out, could make air. His ancient body pulled it out of the metal itself, a trick from his makers that Cade didn't understand and Vorathane couldn't explain. It wasn't much, but it was enough for one boy and his dying father. Cade ran back and forth between his broken ship and the cave, carrying supplies, food packets, water, medicine, the star charts loaded onto a cracked tablet. And while he worked, he talked. He couldn't help it. He'd always been a talker. He told the dragon about his home. A mining station called Halden's Reach, a rusty old ring spinning around a gas giant, where 400 people dug rare metals out of floating rocks. He told him about his mom, who died 2 years ago when a mining tunnel collapsed. He told him how his dad had gone quiet after that, how he'd stopped laughing, how the two of them had drifted around each other like two ships that couldn't quite dock. He used to sing, Cade said one night, sitting in the warm cave beside his father. My dad. He had this terrible, awful voice. Really bad. But he'd sing anyway. In the mornings, this dumb old song about a sailor going home drove everybody crazy. Cade's voice went thin. He stopped after Mom died. I haven't heard him sing in 2 years. The dragon listened. He was very good at listening. He had, after all, had 3,000 years to practice being quiet. And the raiders? Vorathane asked gently. Who were they? Cade's face darkened. The Sorrow, he said. That's what they call themselves. They're not from anywhere. They just take ships, stations, whole colonies. They came to Halden's Reach for the metal. They didn't want to fight. They just started shooting. His hands curled into fists. My dad grabbed me and ran. He got me to the ship. But a piece of the wall came apart when they blew the docking bay, and it hit him, right in the side, and he stopped. He couldn't finish. He was hurt saving you. Yeah. And now you are trying to save him. Yeah. The dragon was quiet. Then he said, in a strange, wondering voice, My makers told me the small lives did not love each other. They told me small creatures were like insects, born and dead in a blink, that they did not feel things the way great beings do. He looked at the boy sitting beside his dying father in the dark. They were wrong about many things, my makers. But I think that was the biggest lie of all. Cade wiped his eyes. Who were your makers, anyway? What happened to them? And that was when Vorathane told the boy the second secret, the one that would, much later, change everything. They are gone, the dragons said. All of them. The ones who built me and my brothers and sisters, the great star WIRMS. They called themselves the architects. They believed they were the rightful masters of the galaxy. They built us to reshape the stars for their glory. And then, one day, 3,000 years ago, they simply vanished. Every one of them. In a single night. I do not know how. I do not know why. I only know that one moment the galaxy was full of their voices, and the next, there was silence. The dragon's eyes flickered. We star WIRMS searched for them for 1,000 years. We never found a single body, a single ship, a single answer. They were just gone. Cade felt a chill. That's creepy. Yes. A whole species just disappeared? In one night. Yes. Where do you think they went? The dragon was silent for a long, long time. I have wondered that, he finally said, every single day for 3,000 years. The first dead star was a cold, dim red thing, barely glowing, alone in the dark with no planets and no life around it. Vorathane approached it slowly, painfully, his enormous body creaking. Cade watched from inside the cave through a window Vorathane had opened in his own armor. He watched the dragon open his great chest, watched a stream of light flow from the dying red star into the tiny coal inside the dragon's body. It wasn't much, but it was something. When it was done, the coal inside Vorathane's chest was a little brighter. The dragon flexed his enormous wings, and Cade felt the whole world shift beneath him. Better, the dragon rumbled. A little better. Now show me the next star, Cade. They became a strange kind of team, the ancient dragon and the 12-year-old boy. Cade found the dead stars on his charts. Vorathane drank from them, one at a time, growing a little stronger with each one. And step by step, star by star, they crept across the dark toward the nearest world with a healer. But the galaxy was watching. They had drunk from 6 dead stars when the first alien ship appeared. It came out of nowhere, sleek and silver and beautiful, shaped like a curling seashell. It stopped a safe distance away and hailed them, and a voice came through, cold and elegant. Star WIRM, the voice said. You have been thought dead for 100 years. And yet here you are, feeding again. Explain yourself. Vorathane's eyes narrowed. Who asks? I am Speaker Eyelash of the Kale Assembly. We are the caretakers of this region of space. And you, Ancient One, are a monster from an age we hoped was over. A pause. We tracked your feeding. 6 dead stars in as many days. You are building your strength. Why? What do you intend to do? Cade, listening from the cave, felt his heart pound. I intend nothing, Vorathane said. I am crossing this dark to find a healer. There is a wounded creature aboard me. A child's father. There was a long, cold silence. Then Eyelash laughed. It was not a kind laugh. A creature, the speaker said. You mean a human. Cade froze. Yes, Vorathane said slowly. Cade calls his kind humans. You know of them. Oh, we know of the humans. Eyelash's voice dripped with contempt. Everyone in this region knows of the humans. They are a plague. A pack of scavengers and thieves, crawling out of some forgotten corner of the galaxy, breeding like vermin, taking what is not theirs. The Kale Assembly has voted to contain them. And you, ancient monster, are carrying one. A pause. Give it to us. Give us the human, and we will let you continue your journey. Refuse, and we will destroy you both." In the cave, Cade's blood ran cold. Because the terrible thing, the thing that made his stomach drop, was this. What the aliens said sounded almost true. Humans were scavengers. They did take what wasn't theirs, sometimes, when they were starving. Cade's own station, Halden's Reach, had been built on salvage, on scraps, on things pulled out of the dark and made new. Humans had spread out from their home world centuries ago in a great desperate wave, and they had never had much, and they had done whatever they needed to do to survive. Cade had grown up thinking that was just how the galaxy was. Now, hearing this beautiful alien voice call his whole species vermin, he suddenly understood something. The aliens looked down on humans. All of them. Everywhere. To the rest of the galaxy, humans were the small creatures. The insects. The dust on someone's boots. And Cade thought, that's exactly what Vorathane's makers said about him. No, Vorathane said. The word rolled out into the dark, calm and final. Speaker Eyelash paused. No, I will not give you the boy. The dragon's voice hardened, and for the first time Cade heard the killer in it, the thing that had once ended worlds. You call this kind vermin. You call them a plague. I have heard those words before, Speaker Eyelash. My makers spoke them about every small creature in the galaxy, including yours. They said the same about the kale, once, long ago. Small. Worthless. Dust. Eilash's voice tightened. That is different. Is it? The dragon began, very slowly, to turn his enormous body toward the silver ship. This boy climbed out of a dying ship and stood on the body of a creature that has burned 1,000 worlds. And instead of begging for his life, he asked me to save his father. He has fed me, guided me, talked to me through the long dark nights so that I would not die alone. In 3,000 years, Speaker, no great and glorious being ever did as much for me as this one small human child. The dragon's eyes blazed. So no, you will not have him. There was a long silence. Then Eyelash said, coldly, so be it. The silver ship opened fire. The blast was beautiful and terrible, a spear of white light that struck Vorathane's side and made the whole enormous body shudder. Cade was thrown off his feet. His father groaned in the shaking dark. Vorathane, Cade shouted. I am old, the dragon rumbled, and his voice was strained with pain. I am weak. My strength is a fraction of what it was. But I am still a star WIRM. And this child fool of a speaker has forgotten what that means. The dragon opened his mouth. Cade had never seen it before, the true weapon of a star WIRM. It was not fire. It was not light. It was gravity. From Vorathane's open jaws poured a wave of pure crushing force, invisible, silent, that reached out across the dark and closed around the silver ship like a fist. The seashell hull began to crumple. Stop! Eyelash screamed. Stop, Yule. Vorathane stopped. The silver ship hung there, dented, half-crushed, its engines sputtering. It had not been destroyed. It had been shown. Go home, Speaker, Vorathane said quietly. Tell your assembly what you saw. Tell them the last star WRM flies again, and he flies with a human. And tell them this. The dragon's eyes glowed. If they wish to call the humans vermin, they may. But they will remember that once, long ago, they were vermin too. Now go. The silver ship turned and fled into the dark. In the cave, Cade slowly picked himself up. His hands were shaking again. But this time, it wasn't from fear. Vorathane, he said, you're bleeding. He wasn't, not exactly. But there was a great tear in the dragon's side where the blast had hit, and the warm orange light was leaking out of it into space, like heat from an open door. Yes, Vorathane said. The blast cost me. I am weaker now than I was this morning. A long pause. That is the price of protecting you, Cade. And I would pay it again. Cade didn't say anything. He couldn't. Because a monster that had burned 1,000 worlds had just gotten hurt protecting him. A nobody. A scavenger kid from a rusty mining ring at the edge of nowhere. And Cade understood, in that moment, that he was never going to let this dragon die alone. They kept going. Star by star, they crept across the dark, and as they went, Cade learned more about the galaxy than he'd ever known in his whole life. He learned that the galaxy was old and full of ancient, proud species who had been around for tens of thousands of years. The Kale, with their beautiful seashell ships. The Vorm, who lived in clouds of gas and spoke in colors. The Thessaline, a species of living crystal who thought themselves the wisest beings alive. And dozens more, all of them ancient, all of them proud, all of them looking down on the newcomers. And the newcomers were the humans. Humans had only reached the stars a few centuries ago. They were young. They were poor. They had spread out fast and desperate, taking whatever they could find, building homes out of scraps and salvage. And the ancient species hated them for it. They called humans locusts. They called them a disease. Some of them, like the Sorrow Raiders who had destroyed Halden's Reach, actively hunted humans for sport and profit. But why? Cade asked one night, sitting in the warm cave, looking out at the stars. We never hurt anybody. We just wanted to survive. That is exactly why they hate you, Vorethane said. You survive. Against everything. In places nothing should live, you build homes. On scraps that should be worthless, you build lives. You do not have their great ships or their ancient wisdom or their beautiful cities. You have only each other and stubbornness and hope. And to the ancient ones, that should not be enough. The dragon's eyes glowed softly. But it is. And that terrifies them. Cade thought about that for a long time. Vorethane, he finally said, when you fed on stars, when you killed those worlds, did any of them have humans on them? The dragon was quiet. No, he said. The humans came to the stars long after I stopped killing. You are a young species, Cade. In all my centuries of destruction, I never once faced a human. A pause. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I had. Whether I would have looked down on you like the rest. Or whether you would have looked at me, small and stubborn and unafraid, the way you did, and cracked something open inside me that no great being ever could. Cade smiled a little. You'd have been a jerk, he said. The dragon made his terrible, grinding, beautiful laugh. Yes, he agreed. I would have been an enormous jerk. Cade's father woke up on the 12th day. Cade was asleep, curled up in the warm cave, when he heard the voice. Cade. He was awake instantly. His father's eyes were open. They were clearer than they'd been in days. Dad. Cade grabbed his hand. Dad, you're awake. Oh my gosh, you're awake. Where? His father looked around at the glowing metal cave, the strange orange light, the impossible size of everything. Where are we? What is this place? Cade laughed, and it was half a sob. You're not going to believe me. Try me. So Cade told him. He told him everything. The crash, the dragon, the dead stars, the silver ship. And his father listened, his eyes going wider and wider. And when Cade finished, his father was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, You landed our ship on a 2-mile-long star-eating dragon, made friends with it, and now you're flying across the galaxy to save my life. Yeah. By feeding dead stars to a dragon. Yeah. His father stared at him. And then, for the first time in 2 years, Rennick Marsh threw back his head and laughed. It was a real laugh, deep and full, the laugh Cade had thought he'd never hear again. Your mother, his father said, wiping his eyes, would have loved this. She would have absolutely loved this. And then, from all around them, the dragon spoke. Your son, Vorethane rumbled gently, is the bravest small creature I have met in 3,000 years. You should be proud. Cade's father went very still, hearing the enormous voice for the first time. Then he looked at his son, and something moved across his face, something soft and broken and proud all at once. "I am," he said quietly. "I've always been." He squeezed Cade's hand. "I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry I went so quiet. After your mom. I just didn't know how to be here anymore. And you needed me, and I wasn't there, and I'm sorry." Cade's eyes filled up. "You're here now. I'm here now." And in the warm orange light, deep in the body of an ancient dying dragon, a father and son held onto each other in the dark. Vorathane watched them, and the little coal inside his chest glowed a little brighter, and the ancient dragon thought about the creatures on that world he had killed so long ago. The ones who had sung to each other as the light went out. This, he thought. This is what they were doing. This is what I destroyed. And for the first time in 3,000 years, the weight of all those dead worlds felt like something he might, someday, be able to bear. But Rennick Marsh was not healed. He was only awake. The wound in his side had gone bad, deep inside where the warm light of the dragon couldn't reach. He could talk now, and smile, and hold his son's hand. But he was still dying. Slower now, but still dying. "We have to hurry," Cade told the dragon. "How far to the nearest healer?" Vorathane was quiet a moment, calculating. "There is a world," he said. "The Thessaline homeworld. The Crystal People. They are the greatest healers in this region of space. If any can save your father, they can." A pause. "But it is far, and the Thessaline are proud, and they will not welcome a human." "They'll welcome us if we ask nice," Cade said stubbornly. "Cade," the dragon said gently, "the Thessaline do not save humans. They have laws against it. To them, healing a human would be like a human healing a rat." Cade's jaw set. "Then we'll make them. You cannot make an entire civilization. Watch me." And Vorathane, despite everything, felt the old grinding laugh rumble up inside him. "Very well," he said, "to the Thessaline. But it is a long journey, and I am weak, and the dead stars along the way are few." A pause. "We will need to feed. And the path to the Thessaline passes through a place I have avoided for 3,000 years." "Where?" "The graveyard," Vorathane said quietly. "The place where my brothers and sisters died. The other star WIRMS. They are all there. All of them. Dead." Cade's breath caught. How did they die? And that was when Vorathane told the boy the third secret. "They killed each other," the dragon said. "After the architects vanished, we star WIRMS had no purpose. No masters. No orders. And without orders, some of us went mad. We fought. We tore each other apart across 1,000 years, until only I was left." The dragon's voice was heavy with grief. "The graveyard is where the last great battle happened. It is a place of broken bodies as large as moons. I have not been there since the day I watched my last sister die. I swore I never would again." A long pause. "But it is on the path to the Thessaline. And for your father, Cade, I will go back." The graveyard was the most terrifying thing Cade had ever seen. They came out of a fold in space, and there it was, spread across the dark, the bodies of dead dragons, dozens of them, each one as large as Vorathane, each one broken and cold and silent. Some were torn in half. Some had great holes punched through them. They drifted in slow circles, frozen forever in the moment of their deaths, their inner suns long gone dark. Cade stood at the window in the cave and stared out at the field of dead giants, and he couldn't speak. "My family," Vorathane said softly. "All that remains of my kind." He drifted forward, slowly, through the field of the dead. He named them as he passed, quietly, like a prayer. Kesavane, Thornmel, Ossivar the Bright. His voice cracked on the names. "My sister, Lamenthal. There, the blue one." Cade looked at the blue dragon Vorathane pointed to. It was beautiful, Even in death, its dark body streaked with lines of frozen blue light. A great wound ran through its chest where its inner sun had been torn out. She was the kindest of us, Vorathane said. She did not want to fight. She tried to stop it, and they killed her for it. A long, terrible pause. I killed the one who killed her. And then I looked around, and everyone was dead, and I was the only one left, and I understood what we had become. The dragon's voice dropped to a whisper. The architects made us to be gods. Instead we became this. A field of corpses. Dust on the boots of the galaxy, just like the small creatures we despised. Cade put his gloved hand against the window, as if he could touch the dragon somehow. I'm sorry, Vorathane. There is more, Cade. The dragon's voice grew strange. There is a reason I have avoided this place. Not only grief. There is something here I have never understood. Something that has haunted me for 3,000 years. A pause. When my siblings died, their inner suns should have exploded. A dying star does not simply go out. It should have burned this whole region to ash. The dragon drifted deeper into the graveyard. But it did not. The suns simply vanished. From every one of them. As if something reached inside each dead dragon and took its heart. Cade felt the hair on his neck stand up. Took them? Took them where? I do not know. The dragon's eyes swept across the field of the dead. I only know that 100 inner suns, each one bright enough to burn a world, simply disappeared in a single night. The same night, Cade. His voice dropped. The same night the architects vanished. Cade's mind, which never stopped, began to race. Wait, he said. Wait. The architects disappeared the same night the suns disappeared. Yes. A whole species, gone in one night. And 100 star hearts, gone the same night. Cade's heart was pounding now. Vorathane, that's not two mysteries. That's one mystery. They're connected. They have to be. The dragon went very still. In 3,000 years, he said slowly. I never once put those two things together. I was too deep in grief to think. But you. His enormous eyes turned toward the boy. You saw it in a heartbeat. Because I wasn't there, Cade said. I wasn't sad about it. I could just look at it. He pressed both hands to the window, staring out at the dead. Vorathane, what if the architects didn't disappear? What if they took the star hearts and went somewhere? What if they're not gone at all? What if they're just hiding? The dragon was silent for a long, long time. If that is true, he finally said, in a voice full of dread, then it means my makers abandoned us on purpose. They took the power they needed, and they left the rest of us to die, and they never looked back. A pause. It means everything I believed about them was a lie. Or, Cade said slowly, it means something took them. Something that wanted the star hearts. Something big enough and strong enough to grab a whole species and 100 dying suns in a single night. The two of them, the boy and the dragon, stared out at the field of the dead. And far away, deep in the graveyard, something that had been sleeping for 3,000 years began, very slowly, to wake up. They almost didn't notice it at first. It was Cade who saw it, because Cade never stopped looking. A single point of light, deep in the graveyard, among the dead dragons. It was tiny. It flickered, and it was getting brighter. Vorathane, he said. What's that? The dragon turned, and when he saw the light, his whole enormous body went rigid with fear. No, he whispered. No, that is not possible. What? What is it? That light. The dragon began to back away, slowly. That is a star heart. An inner sun. Waking up. His voice trembled. Cade, there is nothing alive in this graveyard. Nothing has moved here in 3,000 years. If a star heart is glowing, then something is inside one of my dead siblings. Something is using it. The light grew brighter. And then, with a groan that shook the whole dark, one of the dead dragons moved. It was Cade's height compared to it, less than an ant. But he watched, frozen in horror, as one of the corpses in the graveyard shuddered, lifted its enormous head, and opened eyes that glowed a sick, poisonous green. "That is not my sibling," Vorathane breathed. "That is a corpse. Something is wearing it." A voice came across the dark. It was not a dragon's voice. It was thin and cold and wrong, and it came from everywhere at once. "Vorathane," it said, "little brother, you came back. We knew you would. Eventually." The dragon's inner sun flared with terror. "Who are you? What are you?" "You know what we are." The dead dragon rose fully now, green light pouring from its wounds. And behind it, one by one, more of the corpses began to glow. More green eyes opened in the dark. "You have always known. You simply could not bear to see it." And then the voice said the thing that changed everything. "We are the architects, Vorathane. Your makers. We never left. We only changed." Cade watched from the cave window, his heart hammering, as the truth came out at last. The architects had not vanished. They had not been taken. 3,000 years ago, they had made a terrible discovery. They were dying. Their whole species, all at once, struck by a plague that ate them from the inside. And rather than accept it, rather than fade with dignity, the architects had done something monstrous. They had abandoned their bodies. Using the last of their science, they had turned themselves into something new. Not flesh, not machine. A kind of hungry, formless hunger, a swarm of dark minds that needed only one thing to survive: the light of stars. And so, on their final night, they had reached into their own creations, their star WRMS, and torn out the inner suns to feed on. 100 star hearts, ripped away in a single night. And the star WRMS, left without their hearts, had gone mad and destroyed each other. "You made us fight," Vorathane said, and his voice shook with 3,000 years of grief and rage. "You didn't just abandon us. You killed us. You reached into my siblings and tore out their hearts, and you left me to watch them die. We needed the light, little brother." The green-eyed corpses drifted closer, dozens of them now, an army of the dead. "We could not take yours. You fled before we could reach you. You have been the one that got away, all these long years. And now, at last, you have come home." The voice grew hungry. "Your heart is small now, dying, but it is a heart. And we have been so hungry, Vorathane. For 3,000 years, we have hidden here, feeding on the last dregs of our old suns, waiting. And now the last star heart in the galaxy has flown right into our arms." Cade understood the whole terrible shape of it now. The architects were still here. 100 dead dragon bodies, each one a puppet worn by the hungry ghost of a dying species. They had been trapped in the graveyard for 3,000 years, unable to leave, feeding on scraps. And Vorathane, the last star WIRM with a living heart, was the meal they'd been waiting for. "Vorathane," Cade whispered, "we have to run." "I cannot outrun them all," the dragon said quietly. "I am too weak. They have 100 bodies. I have one, and it is dying." A pause. "But you can run, Cade. Take your father. Take your ship. I will hold them here as long as I can, and you will escape into the dark." "No, Cade. No." The boy pounded his fist against the window. "You didn't leave me when the silver ship came. You got hurt protecting me. I'm not leaving you to get eaten by a bunch of dead ghost dragons. There's got to be another way." "There is no other way, small one. There's always another way." Cade's mind was racing now, faster than it ever had. "They're hungry, right? They need starlight to live. They've been eating scraps for 3,000 years. That's why they're stuck here. That's their weakness." He pressed his face to the glass, thinking. "Vorathane, when you fed on the dead stars along the way, how much light do you have inside you right now?" "A little. Enough to move. Not much more. What? How much would it take to make one big burst? One huge flash? All at once. The dragon paused. All of it. Every scrap. It would leave me completely empty. It would kill me instantly. But it would be bright. Yes. For one instant, brighter than a sun. Cade turned from the window. His face was wet, but his eyes were burning. They're starving, he said. They've been starving for 3,000 years. If you flash all your light at once, all of it, brighter than a star, they won't be able to help it. They'll all rush in to feed. Every single one of them. All in the same place, at the same time. The dragon went very still. And then, Vorthane asked. Cade looked out at the field of dead dragons, at the green-eyed, hungry ghosts of the beings who had murdered a whole species of gods. And then, he said quietly, you catch them. With your gravity thing. Like you did to the silver ship. But not to crush them. His voice trembled. To hold them. All of them. In one place. Long enough for the real star to do the rest. Cade. The dragon's voice was gentle. There is no real star here. Only dead ones. Not yet there isn't. Cade wiped his face. But you said the dead stars give a little light when you drink them. What if you don't drink them? What if you crash them together instead? Two dead stars slammed into each other, right in the middle of the graveyard. It'd make a new one. Just for a second. A real one. Bright and hot and alive. The dragon was silent for a very, very long time. That, he finally said, in a voice full of wonder, is either the most brilliant plan I have ever heard, or the most insane. My mom said those are usually the same thing. And Vorthane, the last of the star WIRMS, made his terrible, grinding, beautiful laugh one final time. Your mother, he said, was a very wise woman. Very well, Cade. Let us build a star. There was no time to waste. The architects were closing in. Vorthane could not fight 100 bodies at once. But he did not have to. He only had to survive long enough to spring the trap. Hold on to your father, the dragon told Cade. And whatever happens, do not let go. Cade scrambled back to his father, who was awake and pale in the warm light. Dad, something big's about to happen. Hold on to me. His father grabbed him tight. Cade, whatever this dragon's about to do, he's saving us. And whatever it costs him, his father finished quietly, you thank him. You hear me? You thank him for both of us. Cade nodded, his throat too tight to speak. Outside, Vorthane began to move. There were two dead stars at the edge of the graveyard, cold and dim, drifting slowly in the dark. Vorthane reached out with his gravity, the invisible force that poured from his open jaws, and he took hold of both of them at once. It was the hardest thing he had ever done. His whole enormous body strained. The tear in his side ripped wider, leaking light. But slowly, painfully, he began to drag the two dead stars toward each other, toward the center of the graveyard, toward the swarm of hungry, green-eyed ghosts. He is doing something, the architects hissed, their 100 bodies turning. Stop him. Stop him, brothers. Whatever he is doing, stop it. The dead dragons surged forward. Now, Cade. Vorthane's voice was strained to breaking. Not yet. Wait till they're all close. Wait. The architects closed in from every direction, 100 corpses with poisonous green eyes, jaws opening, reaching for the last living star heart in the galaxy. The two dead stars drew closer and closer to each other, dragged by the dragon's failing strength. Cade, Vorthane roared. I cannot hold them much longer. Almost. The 100 dead dragons were nearly on top of them now. Cade could see the green light filling the window, could feel the cold hunger of the architects reaching out. The two dead stars were almost touching. Now, Vorthane. Flash now. And the dragon opened his chest and gave everything he had. Every scrap of light he had gathered from the dead stars along the way, every ember he had saved, every last spark of the tiny dying sun in his chest, Vorethane poured it all out at once, in a single blinding burst, brighter than any star in the sky. The architects could not stop themselves. 3,000 years of starving. 3,000 years of scraps and darkness and hunger. And now, right in front of them, brighter than anything they had seen since the day they murdered their creations, light. Real light. A feast. The 100 dead dragons surged toward Vorethane's dying flash. All at once. All in the same place. A swarm of green-eyed ghosts diving for the light like moths to a flame. And in that instant, with the last of his strength, Vorethane slammed the two dead stars together. The new star was born in a heartbeat. Two dead suns, crushed together at last, their cold hearts fusing into one, and in an explosion of light and heat and raw living fire, a brand new star ignited right in the center of the graveyard, right in the middle of the swarming architects. It was small. It would only last a moment. But for that one moment, it burned brighter than anything in the galaxy. And the architects, who needed starlight to live, who had been starving for 3,000 years, who had dived toward Vorethane's dying flash, all crowded together in one place. The architects were caught in the heart of a brand new, blazing, living star. They screamed. Cade heard it through the window, 100 voices crying out at once. And it was terrible. And he covered his ears, and he held his father, and he watched as 3,000 years of hunger and murder and lies burned away in a single flash of light. The architects, who had turned themselves into hungry ghosts to escape death, who had murdered their own creations to feed, who had hidden in a field of corpses for 3,000 years, they were burned to nothing in the light of a star they could not resist. It was over in seconds. The new star flickered, flared, and then, its fuel spent, went dark. The graveyard fell silent. The green lights were gone. The dead dragons drifted, still and cold and empty once more, but this time truly empty. The hungry ghosts were gone. And in the center of it all, Vorethane hung in the dark, silent and still, his chest torn open, his inner sun completely, utterly dark. Vorethane, Cade whispered. No answer. Vorethane. Nothing. Cade scrambled to the window. The dragon wasn't moving. His great eyes were dark. His whole enormous body drifted, cold and lifeless, in the silent dark. He had given everything, every last spark, and now he was gone. No, Cade said. No, no, no. Vorethane, wake up. Wake up. You did it. You saved us. Now wake up. Wake up. But the dragon didn't move. Cade's father put a hand on his shoulder. Cade, he said gently. He knew. He knew what it would cost. He can't be gone. Tears streamed down Cade's face. He can't. He was going to get better. He was going to live. He said maybe it would be enough. He wanted to live. I know he did. I know he did. And the boy pressed his hands to the window, staring out at the still, dark body of the ancient dragon who had saved him. And he did the only thing he could think of, the thing his father used to do in the mornings, the thing the creatures on that long-dead world had done as the light went out. He sang. His voice was small and shaky and terrible, just as terrible as his father's. It was the old song about the sailor going home, the one his dad used to sing before Cade's mother died. Cade didn't even know all the words, but he sang it anyway, into the dark, to the body of a dying dragon, because he didn't know what else to do. And then his father's voice joined his. Rough and weak, but there. Two terrible voices, a father and a son, singing an old song about going home, deep in a graveyard of gods, holding on to each other in the dark. They sang for the dragon who had listened to them through the long nights. They sang because nobody, not even a dragon, should have to die alone. Deep inside Vorathane's dark and silent chest, something stirred. It was not the inner sun. The inner sun was gone, spent, dead. It was something else. Something small. Something the dragon had never known he had. For 3,000 years, Vorathane had believed his whole life came from the star inside his chest. The architects had told him so. They had told him he was nothing but a machine wrapped around a sun, that when the sun went out, so did he. But the architects had lied about everything. And in the silence of the graveyard, as a boy and his father sang an old song about going home, the ancient dragon heard it. Faint, far away, a sound reaching down into the dark where he had gone. They are singing, Vorathane thought, in the last dim corner of his fading mind. Asterisk the way the creatures on that world sang, so long ago. They are singing for me. Asterisk. And the dragon, who had wanted to die alone for 3,000 years, discovered in his final moment that he did not want to die at all. Because someone had sung for him. Because someone had refused to let him go. Deep in his chest, the small thing the architects never knew about, the thing that was not a sun, the thing that was closer to a soul. It caught the song like an ember catches a breath of air. And it began, very slowly, to glow. Cade felt it before he saw it. A warmth, rising up through the metal, up through the cave, up through his hands where they pressed against the window. He stopped singing. He held his breath. "Dad," he whispered. "Dad, look." Deep in the dark of the dragon's torn open chest, a tiny light had appeared. Small, faint, but growing. "That's not possible," his father breathed. "You said his star was dead. You said he gave everything." "He did." Cade's heart was pounding. "But that's not his star. Look, it's a different color. His star was orange. That's gold." The light grew, and grew, and as it grew, the dragon's great body began, slowly, to move. His enormous head lifted. His eyes, dark for so long, flickered, and then opened, and they were not the old cold color they had been. They were warm. They were gold. They were alive in a way they had never been before. "Vorathane!" Cade shouted, laughing and crying at once. "You're alive. You're alive." The dragon's voice, when it came, was full of wonder. "I do not understand," Vorathane said slowly. "My star is gone. I gave everything. I should be dead. And yet," the golden light pulsed in his chest. "There is something inside me. Something I have never felt before. Something the architects never told me about. Something that woke when you sang." A long, wondering pause. "Cade, I think I have a heart. A real one. Not a star. Something else. Something the architects could not make and did not know about." His golden eyes turned to the boy. "And it will not run out. It does not burn like a star. It does not die. It only glows brighter the more it is loved." Cade wiped his face, grinning like an idiot. "So you're not gonna die?" "No, Cade." And the dragon's voice was full of a joy Cade had never heard in it before. For the first time in 3,000 years. "I am not going to die." A pause. "You did not just save my life, small creature. You gave me a new one. A whole new way to be alive." Cade laughed, and it turned into a sob, and his father pulled him into a hug, and the three of them, the boy, the father, and the dragon, drifted together in the silent graveyard, surrounded by the bodies of dead gods, in the warm golden light of something brand new. They still had to save Cade's father. Now that Vorathane's new heart burned bright and endless, the dragon was stronger than he had been in 1,000 years. He did not need to feed on stars anymore. He did not need to hunt. His new heart, the one that glowed brighter the more it was loved, gave him all the power he could ever want. And so they flew, faster than Cade had ever imagined, toward the Thessaline homeworld, toward the crystal healers who did not save humans. But the galaxy had been watching. Word had spread, faster than light. From the mouth of Speaker Eyelash and the crumpled silver ship, the last star WRM flies again, and he flies with a human. When Vorathane arrived at the Thessaline homeworld, an entire fleet was waiting for him. Hundreds of ships, from a dozen ancient species. The seashell ships of the Kale, the glowing gas clouds of the Vorm, and in the center, the great crystal cities of the Thessaline, floating in space, sharp and beautiful and cold. A voice hailed the dragon. It was old and grand and full of ancient pride. Star WIRM, it said. I am first voice Thessa, elder of the Thessaline. You come to our world unbidden, carrying a human. We have heard the tales. We do not believe them, and we do not welcome your kind or the vermin you carry. Turn back. Cade's heart sank. But Vorathane did not turn back. Instead, the ancient dragon drifted forward, slow and calm, his golden heart glowing bright, and he spoke to the entire assembled fleet. I have flown this galaxy for 3,000 years, Vorathane said. I have burned worlds. I have watched my whole kind die. I have carried the guilt of 1,000 murders. And in all that time, in all those years, I met only one thing that ever tried to save me instead of destroy me. His golden eyes swept across the fleet. It was not one of you great and ancient species. It was not the proud Kale, or the wise Thessaline, or the timeless Vorm. It was a 12-year-old human child who climbed out of a dying ship, looked at the biggest, scariest thing he had ever seen, and asked it, with kindness, for help. The fleet was silent. You call the humans vermin, Vorathane went on. You call them scavengers, a plague, dust on your boots. My makers called every small creature the same. They called you the same, once long ago. His voice hardened. And do you know what happened to my makers? I will tell you. They believed they were gods. They believed the small lives did not matter. And that belief rotted them from the inside until they became hungry ghosts who murdered their own children to survive. I watched them burn today. And do you know what killed them? A pause. A star. Built by the hands of a human child. Because when the rest of the galaxy said a thing was impossible, the humans simply refused to believe it. Cade, listening from the cave, felt his father's hand tighten on his shoulder. This child's father is dying, Vorathane said. He was hurt saving his son, and his son has crossed the entire galaxy, riding on the back of a monster, feeding stars to a dragon, to save him. He has faced ancient warships and armies of the dead, and he has not once, not for a single moment, given up. The dragon's golden eyes fixed on the great crystal city. You say you do not save humans. First voice Thessa, I ask you to look at what this human has done, and then tell me, to my face, that his kind are not worth saving. There was a very long silence. And then, from the crystal city, first voice Thessa spoke again. But her voice was different now. Quieter. Uncertain. You truly believe, she said slowly, that a human child killed the architects. I do not believe it, Vorathane said. I watched it. And so did the architects, in their final moment. The last thing they ever saw was a human refusing to let them win. Another long silence. And then, slowly, one by one, the ships of the fleet began to lower their weapons. They healed Cade's father. The Thessaline were the greatest healers in that part of the galaxy, and once they decided to help, they did not do it halfway. They brought Rennick Marsh into their crystal city, and they worked on him for 3 days, mending the broken thing inside him that Vorathane could not reach. When Cade was finally allowed to see him, his father was sitting up, color back in his face, looking better than he had in weeks. Maybe better than he had in 2 years. Cade, his father said, and his eyes were wet. Come here. Cade ran to him and hugged him so hard it probably hurt, and his father hugged him back just as hard, and neither of them let go for a long, long time. You did it, his father whispered. You crazy, stubborn, wonderful kid. You saved my life. We both did, Cade said, muffled against his father's shoulder. Me and Vorathane. His father laughed softly. Me and Vorathane, he agreed. Your mother is never going to believe this. When we... He stopped himself. The old grief flickered across his face. But then, slowly, it turned into something else. Something like peace. She'd have been so proud of you, Cade. So proud. Cade pulled back and looked at his father. Dad, he said, will you sing again? In the mornings? The way you used to. His father was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. And it was a real smile, warm all the way through. Yeah, buddy, he said. Yeah, I think I will. First voice Thessa came to see them before they left. She was made of pale blue crystal, tall and sharp and beautiful, and when she moved, light bent through her body in slow rainbows. She stood before the boy and studied him for a long time in silence. Human child, she finally said, I have lived for 11,000 years. In all that time, I believed I understood the shape of the galaxy, the great ones and the small ones, the ancient and the new. I believed the small ones did not matter. A pause. You have made me wonder if I have been wrong for 11,000 years. Cade didn't know what to say to that, so he said what felt true. I don't think anybody's small, he said. I think everybody's just trying to get home. To the people they love. That's all any of us are doing. Even the dragon. Even you. First voice Thessa was silent for a very long time. The Kale Assembly voted to contain your species, she finally said. To wall the humans off. To crush them slowly. I was going to support that vote. She looked at the boy. I will not now. And I do not think I will be alone. Word of what you have done is spreading across the galaxy, human child. The boy who rode the last dragon. The boy who built a star to kill the ghosts of gods. The boy who crossed the dark to save his father and would not give up. A pause. The galaxy is beginning to look at your kind differently. Not as vermin. As something new. Something worth watching. Perhaps, someday, something worth respecting. Cade felt his throat go tight. We never wanted anybody to be scared of us. We just wanted a place to live. I know that now, first voice Thessa said quietly. And I am old enough to be ashamed that it took a child to teach me. She turned to go. Then she paused and looked back. Take care of your dragon, human child. There has never been another like him. And there has never been another like you. They didn't go back to Halden's Reach. There was nothing left of it. But that was all right. Because Vorathane had a new heart now, and a new life. And for the first time in 3,000 years, the ancient dragon had somewhere to be. Someone to be with. Where do we go? Cade asked, standing at the window as the dragon carried them out into the dark, away from the crystal cities, away from the graveyard, out toward the wide-open stars. Everywhere, Vorathane rumbled, and his voice was full of a joy that had no end. The whole galaxy, Cade. I spent 3,000 years wanting to die. Now I want to see it. All of it. The parts one never noticed when I was busy being a god. The small worlds. The quiet ones. The ones full of little creatures singing to each other in the dark. A pause. And I would like to see them with you. Both of you. If you will come. Cade looked at his father. His father looked at Cade. And they both grinned. We'll come, Cade said. Where else would we go? Your family now. The words settled into the dragon's enormous body like light into a dark room. Family, Vorathane repeated softly. In 3,000 years, the ancient monster who had burned 1,000 worlds had never once been given that word. Yes, I think I would like that very much. And so the last of the star WRMS flew out into the galaxy, no longer to destroy it, but to see it, with a boy and his father safe and warm inside his glowing golden heart. Behind them, the graveyard grew small and dark. The lies of the architects were burned to nothing. The old age of gods and monsters was over. and a new age was beginning. An age where a young, stubborn, hopeful species called humanity had shown the whole galaxy something it had forgotten in all its long ancient years. That the biggest thing in the universe is not a star, or an empire, or a dragon 2 miles long. The biggest thing in the universe is a small hand reaching out in the dark, refusing to let go. Far ahead, in the endless field of stars, a father began, softly, to sing an old song about a sailor going home. His voice was terrible. It had always been terrible. And a boy, and a dragon with a heart that glowed brighter the more it was loved, sang along.